So hello, we're here today at David Finley's farm at the Ethical Dairy near Castle Douglas in Scotland. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here to learn all about soil health on a dairy farm.
We sit between 30 and 300 feet above sea level, sort of generally southwest facing. It's a loam soil. The soil's it's a kindly soil, but it is stony. It is stony and shallow. And you've got these rugged, rocky outcrops all over the place. Probably about, we've got 850 acres altogether, but out of that, about 500 is improved pasture. And then 250 or so are sort of scrub rough grazing. And then there's about 100 acres of mixed broadleaf woodlands, which we've planted in the last 25 years. So that's on the farm we have the dairy herd, which we probably could manage 125 cows.
But in the meantime, we've got chemical-free manure being incorporated into the soil and actually improving and generating soil health.
What we see in the farm is a lot of dandelion coming in. In fact, there's so much dandelion in the farm in May, people ask what crop we're growing because the farm is orange. It is quite extraordinary. And I did worry about it in the early days, but because I thought, well, we can't spray our crops anymore, so these weeds are coming in. But they're doing a lot of good because they're deep-rooted, they're bringing up nutrients from down below, they're opening up the soil, they're very nutritious, very palatable. So we went from every couple of years putting on 150, 60 tons of lime every couple of years to we haven't put any on since 2016, so that's 8 years. The price spikes that we saw in feed and fertilisers hardly affected us because we don't buy very much of that anymore. The heifers that are coming through now are getting better and better. We're aiming for, if the cows are giving us 4,000 litres and giving even two to their calf from forage, that's 6,000 litres from forage. 4.5 is the target, is the gold measure for milk from forage from a cow per year. We're getting, we reckon it's the suckling, which it's not a great surprise. The suckling stimulates milk production, but also it's a low stress system, as you can tell. You can tell from the cows, they're not stressed. Everybody's very chilled, and it's about giving them as good a life as they will respond in that way. And over that first 6 months, which means that they are coming to maturity, sexual maturity, or beef weight about 6 to 8 months earlier than they were before. But 25% more cows, each cow producing 25% more milk. Even though the calf is drinking a third of the total milk, you're actually getting as much milk as you had before, but you have 25 more cattle to sell out of that system. So it is actually more efficient. Cows and calves, this is our experiment. This is our sort of the final piece of our agroecological jigsaw, and we'll talk about that later on. But as you can see, these cows and these calves are actually very, very tame, very calm, and that's a fascinating thing about this whole experiment, is that it is totally counterintuitive. It's turned up things that we did not expect. good and bad. But you can see these calves are thriving. They are drinking 15 litres of milk a day. We separate them overnight, so we've got some milk, because at this stage they can drink 25, 30 litres easily. We actually separate them at the cottage there. There's a paddock for the calves with a shed, a shelter, and the cows will come back in here. And then in the morning we'd bring the cows in, milk, come back, and then they rejoin. But they're growing more than twice as fast as they were when we were bucket rearing. And we thought they would be much more wild, much wilder. Because we weren't their mothers anymore, proxy mothers, but they're calmer, they're quieter, they're more confident. It has been very interesting. Well, we've had a couple of audits done last year. 125 species of insect, 2 new to Scotland. This was an entomologist who came and to have a look around, and he said the number is exceptional and compares well with a nearby SSSI. And plant species were surveyed back in 2000 and again last year, and they've increased by almost 50% of species. The same guy did the assessments.
I draw people's attention to the swallows, just to tie it into the soil. Because obviously swallows are swooping around here because of this. And this, again, this makes the link into soil. So there are over 1,000 insects actually depend on dung. But this dung will be as free from anthelmintics as possible. So the relationship then is you've got the swallows swooping for really high protein, high-bite insects as they prep for their long haul 3,000 miles south across the Sahel. But in the meantime, we've got chemical-free manure being incorporated into the soil and actually improving and generating soil health.
For me, a proxy of soil health, water infiltration. When I went to the farm that I manage now, it was the first thing we did across the whole farm and found actually how poor the infiltration was. When I step in the hedge and it's gone in like a minute and a half, and a metre inside the field it's taken 2 hours, I realised that it's not actually people, it's the way we're managing. So unfortunately I haven't bought a measuring jug. There's a simple equation, but we're basically seeing how long it takes for an inch of water to penetrate into the ground. So we just knock the tubes in. We've just made those tubes ourselves, just need a beveled edge. You knock it into the line and we just pour in. It's supposed to be 145 mil. I'll just do a bit of a guess. And we have our stopwatch ready normally. The Americans get very carried away and they put cling film inside and they whip the cling film out to make sure it all goes at the same time. But generally, if your soil's not very good at infiltration, that's irrelevant. Just make sure when you knock this in, you just run your finger around the inside and just tap down very, very gently around the inside of the ring, because it can create a crack all the way down and you pour in and it just disappears and you think, happy days. And we normally do them in 3s because we've actually found big differences just in the 3, but generally it tells you if you're very good, average, or very poor. So that's pretty good. That's gone in a minute. But, look, just 30 centimetres away, it's quite different. So if you do a third and take an average, it usually gives you... Soil type makes a big difference to this. Organic matter makes a big difference to this. What's happened yesterday makes a big difference to this. The time of year makes a big difference to this. So if you're going to do it at the same time every year and just use it as proxy. The mob grazing enables us to really protect the soil and armour the soil, and I think that's, with rest and diversity and all those sorts of things. I'm not a soil scientist, but I understand that is my most valuable asset on my farm.
Top of the hill looking down, the green roof thing is the anaerobic digester, which is sitting out there, a very critical part of our closed loop food system here, where we're putting all the waste from the farm, organic waste, the slurry and waste silage into that digester, and the bugs break it down and break down the fibre, release methane, which we burn in a boiler to raise hot water, and the digestate, the resultant digestate, is not just a very powerful fertiliser, but it is also a good soil conditioner, and that's so important for it's sort of like a liquid compost if anybody's a gardener.
So my name is Ewan Ross. I am the Scotland manager at the Nature Friendly Farming Network. The network has been going strength to strength. It's only been running for about 5 or 6 years now, but across that time we've grown to thousands of farmer and public members across the UK, including hundreds of farmers and crofters, as well as members of the public within Scotland. Now, the two core tenets of what the NFFN is trying to achieve is firstly, days like today, fantastic range of knowledge exchange events for farmers that can help farmers across a range of journeys into nature-friendly farming. So it might be for people who are just, very much at the outset, having a curious foray into these sorts of ideas, or they might be quite a long way down that path and wanting to share their expertise with other people. So we do events like this throughout the year. For example, today's was on soil health. How can people easily understand what their soil is saying to them? How can they improve their soil health, whether it's through grazing, reducing the use of things like herbicides, or introducing trees onto farm. There's such a range and wealth of knowledge of experience which is already out there, which the network tries to bring farmers and crofters together to share that. Now, the other thing that we do is also policy and advocacy work. So it's no good if farmers and crofters are doing all these great things but not necessarily getting rewarded or incentivized to do it. So a lot of my role is working with the government, whether that's civil servants or parliamentarians, to really try and advocate for the fact that these kind of practices need to be rewarded financially. And within legislation, farmers, like some of the farmers that we've heard from today, need to be rewarded for the action that they're taking.